The mansion stood on a quiet hill far from the busy city streets, and every morning it looked the same cold, large and silent, as if it was watching the world without caring about it. Sam arrived before sunrise wearing his black janitor uniform and worn shoes, and he unlocked the side door the same way he had done for years without expecting anything new from the day. He had learned long ago that hope only made things heavier, so he kept his head down and focused on his work. Sam was a quiet man who spoke only when needed, and most people in the mansion barely noticed him as he cleaned the shiny floors, wiped the glass walls, and carried trash bags through long silent halls. He had been working here for 3 years and never once complained, because this job kept food on his table and a roof over his head. Life had not been kind to him, and he had learned to accept things as they were. Sam lived alone in a small rented room near the bus station where noise never stopped and the walls were thin, but he did not mind because silence reminded him too much of what he had lost. His wife Lena had passed away 2 years ago after a long illness that slowly took her strength but never took her kindness. She had been the light of his life and the only person who truly saw him. Since her passing, Sam's days blended together like shadows, and he moved through them without emotion, doing what needed to be done and nothing more. Every night before sleeping he looked at Lena's photo on the small table beside his bed, and whispered good night as if she could still hear him. He never told anyone about this because grief was something people did not want to see. That morning felt no different at first, and Sam pushed his cleaning cart down the east wing, which was usually quiet and closed off. The east wing was rarely used and most doors stayed locked, but that day one door stood slightly open. Sam slowed his steps because he knew he was not supposed to enter rooms without instruction, but something about the open door caught his attention. He told himself it was just another room that needed cleaning, and gently pushed the door open. The air inside felt still and heavy, like time had stopped there. The room was large and softly lit with tall windows and white walls. Framed photographs covered one side of the wall, placed carefully, as if each one mattered deeply. Sam rolled his cart inside and began to clean without looking up at first because he did not expect anything unusual. As he wiped a nearby table, his eyes lifted by accident and landed on one of the photos. His body froze and his breath stopped as if someone had pulled the air out of the room. The woman in the photo was Lena. It was not someone who looked like her or reminded him of her, but it was truly his wife. She wore the same blue dress she wore on their last anniversary, and she smiled the same gentle smile that once made him feel safe no matter how hard life became. Sam's hands began to shake and the cloth slipped from his fingers. His heart started pounding so loudly he felt it in his ears. He stepped closer to the wall slowly, as if afraid the image might disappear. He noticed the small scar near her eyebrow that only he knew about, and the soft way her eyes looked into the camera like she trusted the person behind it. Sam felt dizzy and leaned against the wall to steady himself. Water spilled from his bucket onto the floor, but he did not notice. His mind filled with confusion, fear, and disbelief all at once. Lena had never been inside this mansion, and she had never spoken about anyone rich or powerful. She had lived a simple life with him and worked quietly, helping people without expecting anything in return. Sam felt his chest tighten as questions rushed through his mind without answers. Why was his wife's photo here? Who put it here? And why did it feel like this room was built around her memory? Sam stepped back and looked at the other photos on the wall, but none of them mattered anymore. His world had narrowed to that one image. He felt a deep ache in his chest, and tears burned his eyes, but he did not let them fall. He had cried enough in private, and he would not cry here. He stood there for a long moment, trying to calm himself and think clearly. This was not a dream, and it was not a mistake. Someone in this mansion knew Lena, and had chosen to honor her in a place no ordinary person would ever enter. Sam cleaned the rest of the room slowly, his eyes returning to the photo again and again like it was pulling him closer. When he finished, he stood in front of the photo one last time and whispered her name under his breath. He left the room quietly and closed the door behind him like nothing had happened, but inside him everything had changed. The rest of the day passed in a blur, and Sam moved through his tasks without remembering them. His thoughts stayed fixed on that room and that photo, and the question that would not leave his mind. That night Sam sat alone in his small room, staring at Lena's photo on his table, and then closing his eyes as the image from the mansion appeared again. He realized he could not ignore this no matter how afraid he felt. For the first time in years, something stronger than grief filled his chest. It was the need for truth. Sam knew that the owner of the mansion was a billionaire named Mr. Cole who rarely spoke to staff and kept his life private. Sam had seen him from a distance many times but never imagined he would ever speak to him. But now silence felt impossible. Sam lay down on his bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of buses outside, and made a quiet decision. Tomorrow he would ask the question that scared him more than anything else. Morning arrived slowly, and Sam did not feel rested when he opened his eyes because his mind had not slept at all. The image of Lena's photograph on the mansion wall stayed with him like a shadow, and every time he closed his eyes it appeared again, clear and real. He sat up on his narrow bed, and looked at the small photo frame on his table, and compared it silently to the one in the mansion, and his chest tightened as the same question returned. Why was Lena remembered in a place that belonged to a billionaire? Sam washed his face dressed in his black uniform, and left his room before the sun fully rose because he needed movement to stop his thoughts from breaking him. On the bus ride to work he stared out the window and watched the city wake up while his heart beat faster with each stop closer to the mansion. He knew that today would be different, and the thought both scared him and pushed him forward. When Sam arrived at the mansion he began his routine as usual, but his hands felt heavy and his focus slipped again and again. He avoided the east wing at first because he feared the pull of that room and the truth waiting inside it. As hours passed he noticed movement in the mansion that felt unusual, and staff began to straighten halls and whisper quietly to one another. Sam overheard that Mr. Cole was arriving earlier than expected, and his stomach tightened when he heard the name. Mr. Cole was the owner of the mansion, a man known for his success, power, and distance from everyone around him. Sam had only seen him a few times, always surrounded by assistants and always moving with purpose. Sam told himself to stay quiet and finish his work like always, but his heart would not listen. He realized that if he walked away again he might never find the courage to ask, and the photo would haunt him forever. As Mr. Cole entered the main hall, Sam stood near a pillar, holding his cleaning cloth, and watched him from a distance. Mr. Cole looked calm and well-dressed, his steps steady and confident, but something about his eyes felt tired, like they carried old memories. Sam felt his legs weaken as the moment came closer, and fear wrapped around his chest like a tight rope. He reminded himself that he was not asking for anything except the truth, and that Lena deserved to be understood. When Mr. Cole slowed his pace near the center of the hall, Sam stepped forward before he could stop himself. His voice came out low but clear when he spoke, and the sound of it echoed slightly in the open space. "Sir," he said quietly, and the word felt heavy in his mouth because he had never spoken to a man like this before. The assistant stopped and turned, and the air felt suddenly still. Mr. Cole paused and looked at Sam with surprise, as if he had not expected to be addressed by someone like him. Sam took a deep breath and forced himself to continue, even though his hands were shaking. "Why is my wife's photo in your mansion?" he asked, and the words fell into the silence like something fragile and dangerous. For a moment no one spoke, and Sam felt exposed, standing there in his uniform with eyes on him from every direction. Mr. Cole stared at Sam with a look that shifted slowly from confusion to something deeper. He stepped closer and studied Sam's face as if searching for something familiar. "Your wife?" he asked slowly, and his voice lost some of its firmness. "What is her name?" he continued. Sam swallowed hard and answered, "Lena." The color drained from Mr. Cole's face, and his breath caught in his throat, as if the name had unlocked something he had buried long ago. "That cannot be," he said quietly, and his eyes moved toward the east wing, as if pulled by memory. The assistants looked confused and uneasy, but Mr. Cole raised his hand and dismissed them with a single gesture. He turned back to Sam, and his voice was lower, now more human. "Walk with me," he said, and without waiting he moved toward the corridor leading to the photo room. Sam followed, feeling like the ground beneath him was no longer solid. They entered the room together, and Mr. Cole closed the door behind them, shutting out the rest of the world. The silence inside the room felt heavier than before, and Sam stood near the doorway, unsure of where to look. Mr. Cole walked slowly to the wall and stood in front of Lena's photograph for a long time without speaking. When he finally turned, his eyes were filled with emotion Sam had never expected to see in a man like him. "She saved my life," Mr. Cole said softly, and Sam felt his heart stop for a moment. Mr. Cole explained that many years ago, before wealth, before power, before the mansion, he had been nothing. He spoke of being alone, injured and forgotten by the world, and how one woman working quietly had chosen to help him when no one else would. He said Lena had treated him with kindness when he had no name and no future, and had hidden him when others were looking for him. Sam listened in shock because he had never heard this story, and Lena had never spoken of it. Mr. Cole's voice shook as he spoke of how her actions changed his path, and how he spent years trying to find her again after his life turned around. When I finally found her name, he said, she was already gone. Sam felt tears rise, but he remained still as the truth unfolded like something sacred. Mr. Cole looked at Sam, and his eyes softened. I never thought I would meet her husband, he said, and seeing you here feels like fate. Sam felt a mix of pain and pride because he realized Lena's kindness had reached further than he ever knew. The room felt warmer now, less heavy, and Sam understood that this meeting was not an accident. As they stood there together, the mansion no longer felt cold, and the photo on the wall no longer felt like a mystery. It felt like a bridge between two lives connected by one woman who had never asked for anything in return. The room felt different after the truth was spoken, and Sam stood quietly while the weight of Lena's hidden past settled inside him. Mr. Cole remained near the photograph, and his shoulders looked heavier than before, as if the memory had taken strength from him. Sam had never imagined that his wife's quiet life had touched someone who now owned a mansion and power beyond measure. He thought about all the nights Lena had come home tired but peaceful, and how she never spoke of the people she helped because she believed kindness did not need an audience. Sam realized now that her silence had carried stories deeper than he ever knew. Mr. Cole finally spoke again and asked Sam to sit, but Sam remained standing because his legs still felt uncertain. Mr. Cole began to speak about the years that followed after Lena helped him and how he slowly rebuilt his life step by step. He spoke of long nights working small jobs, of learning patience, of failing many times before finding success. He said that through all those years the memory of Lena stayed with him like a guiding light, reminding him to stay human even when the world rewarded coldness. Sam listened closely and felt both pride and sadness because Lena had been strong in ways he had never fully understood. Mr. Cole explained that when he finally had the means, he searched for Lena across towns and records, hoping to thank her and repay her kindness. When he learned of her passing, he felt a loss he could not explain because the chance to speak to her was gone forever. He placed her photo in the mansion not as decoration but as a reminder of who he once was and who he should never forget to be. Sam felt tears gather again, but this time they carried warmth instead of only pain. He realized that Lena had not truly left because her kindness still moved people forward. Mr. Cole looked at Sam and asked about his life, and Sam spoke honestly for the first time in years. He spoke of his simple work, of his small room, and of how he learned to survive day by day after Lena was gone. He spoke of loneliness and quiet nights and of speaking to her photo because it was the only place where he felt heard. Mr. Cole listened without interruption, and his eyes showed respect rather than pity. He told Sam that Lena's story did not end with her passing, and that Sam was now part of that story. He said that sometimes the people who clean floors carry more dignity than those who walk on them without looking down. Sam felt something shift inside him at those words because he had long believed that being unseen was his fate. Mr. Cole told Sam that he wanted to honor Lena not only in memory but in action. He said that honoring her meant caring for the people she loved, and that Sam was one of them. Sam felt unsure how to respond because offers from people like Mr. Cole often came with conditions, but this felt different. Mr. Cole spoke calmly and said that Sam deserved more than survival because Lena had believed in lifting others, not in leaving them behind. He offered Sam support, guidance, and a chance to step into a life where he would not be invisible. Sam felt fear rise because change always felt dangerous after long years of routine. He thought about how Lena used to encourage him to believe in himself and how she always said that dignity came from knowing one's worth. Sam realized that accepting help did not erase his past but honored the love they shared. Mr. Cole stood and extended his hand, and Sam hesitated for a moment before taking it. The handshake felt firm and respectful, and Sam understood that this moment marked a turning point. They spoke for a long time about plans and possibilities, and about how Sam could grow into a role that matched his character rather than his uniform. Sam felt overwhelmed but also hopeful because the future no longer looked like an endless hallway of silent work. As they left the photo room together, Sam looked once more at Lena's photograph and smiled softly. He felt that she was present in that moment, proud and calm like she always was. The mansion halls no longer felt cold as Sam walked back to his duties, and people seemed to notice him in ways they never had before. Staff greeted him and some even smiled, and Sam felt a strange warmth from these small changes. When his shift ended, Sam left the mansion and stepped into the evening air feeling lighter than he had in years. He took the bus home and for the first time did not feel the weight of his small room waiting for him. That night Sam placed Lena's photo beside the window and spoke to it softly. He told her everything that had happened, and thanked her for the kindness she had given the world without knowing how far it would travel. Sam went to sleep with a calm heart, knowing that truth had found him and that Lena's legacy was now guiding his steps forward. Morning light entered Sam's small room gently, and for the first time in many years he did not wake up with heaviness in his chest. He sat up slowly and looked at Lena's photo near the window and felt calm instead of pain. The truth he had learned had changed something deep inside him, and the silence of the room no longer felt empty. Sam dressed for work, but his steps felt lighter, as if the floor itself was helping him move forward. When he arrived at the mansion that day, he noticed people greeting him differently, and some even called him by name, which had never happened before. Sam continued his duties with care, but his heart was no longer trapped in routine. Later that morning he was asked to visit Mr. Cole's office, and instead of fear Sam felt readiness. The office was bright and simple despite the wealth surrounding it, and Mr. Cole stood by the window looking out at the city. He turned and welcomed Sam with a calm smile, and spoke about Lena again because her memory remained at the center of everything. Mr. Cole explained that he wanted to build a program in her name focused on quiet service and dignity for workers who were often unseen. He asked Sam to help guide it not as a symbol, but as a leader who understood real struggle. Sam felt overwhelmed but also honored because this was not charity but trust. He accepted knowing that Lena would have wanted kindness to grow rather than stop. Over the following weeks Sam learned new skills, attended meetings, and shared his thoughts openly for the first time in his life. People listened to him not because of his past job but because of his honesty and insight. Sam remained humble and continued to respect everyone around him because he never forgot where he came from. The mansion changed slowly as well, and workers felt valued and heard, which created a quiet shift in the atmosphere. Mr. Cole watched these changes with pride, knowing that Lena's spirit was shaping the space more than any decoration ever could. Sam often returned to the photo room and stood before Lena's picture feeling gratitude instead of sorrow. He spoke to her in his heart and told her how her kindness was still working through him and others. One evening after a long day, Sam returned to his room and packed his few belongings because he had been offered a better place to live closer to the mansion. As he closed the door to his old room, he did not feel lost because he knew growth sometimes required leaving familiar spaces behind. His new home was modest but quiet and filled with light, and Sam placed Lena's photo in the center like it belonged there. Days turned into months, and Sam grew into his role with confidence while staying grounded in humility. He helped others find stability and reminded them that dignity came from being seen and respected. Mr. Cole often said that Lena had given him his first chance at life, and Sam was now helping others find theirs. One afternoon Sam stood outside the mansion watching the sun lower over the city and felt a deep sense of peace. He realized that his journey had not been about wealth or recognition, but about truth, connection, and honoring love. Lena's kindness had crossed time and class and found its way back to him when he needed it most. Sam understood now that people never truly leave when their actions continue to shape the lives of others. As night fell, Sam returned home and sat quietly by the window thinking about how one simple question had changed everything. He smiled softly and whispered thanks into the quiet air, knowing that Lena's story lived on not in walls or wealth but in human hearts.